Hello everyone, welcome back. Today I wanted to do a steel test penetration with 223 556. Um, Normally I shoot these rims at 30 yards and I turn them into Swiss cheese. Okay, so at 30 yards what I do is I line them up like this. Okay, and then what happens is usually the bullet will go right through it, and sometimes it'll even make a hole in the back, or it'll hit the back and the rim will move a little bit. That's how I know I hit it. Okay, so at 30 yards, I'm turning these into Swiss cheese. Just something for you guys to keep in mind. If you start seeing holes, like big holes like this, which will eventually develop, now you gotta move this back to 75 yards, because once you start seeing, once your holes start getting too close together and you got pieces, pieces actually start flying off of this thing. Okay, so as long as you're just making single holes, it's fine. But when you start seeing chunks come out of it, it's no longer safe at 30 yards. You gotta move it back to about 75 yards. Okay, so like I said, normally I shoot this at 30 yards. I turn this into Swiss cheese. What I wanted to do is I wanted to take it further out, starting at 100 yards, and see what type of penetration I can get. The reason why I got this idea is because recently I did a video that showed that at 100 yards, the energy is 800 foot-pounds. Okay, so 800 foot-pounds is basically the same energy that a 44 Magnum has. And when I shoot these at 30 yards with a 44 Magnum, usually I might get like a dent, but it definitely 44 Magnum will not penetrate these rims. Okay, 357 definitely will barely scratch them. 9mm just kind of just bounces off it. I'll still shoot these at 30 yards with 9mm, and they might move a little bit, but they with 9mm 45 40. You're really not even going to get any dents in the steel. So at the 100 yards, I really didn't expect the 223 to penetrate it, and I started off with Tula. Okay, I put Tula in a 16-inch barrel, and then that was this one over here. The first two shots were here and here, and at 100 yards, the Tula basically went right through this like a laser. Okay, so that was a surprise. So despite the fact that it has the same energy as a 44 Magnum, because the 44 Magnum, is basically 44% of an inch, whereas the 223 is 22% of an inch. It concentrates more force in a smaller area, and it's able to just rip right through the steel. Over here, it actually hit it on the corner, okay, and it still went right through it. So being I was so pleasantly surprised, I decided to take this out to 150 yards. Okay, so 150 yards, still shooting the Tula, and I got one nice hole that actually went through here. Not as crisp as the other ones. The other ones looked like they were burned with a laser. This one I can see the metal actually folded back a little bit, so it's definitely starting to lose some power. And then this one over here, what happens is I can still see the bullet in there, but that's because it hit this, the second, basically the metal is overlapping at the point where it hit. So because the metal was overlapping, the bullet did not make it all the way through. So at 150 yards, the Tula will penetrate these steel rims. And basically these are steel rims, these are car rims. Okay, these aren't truck rims, these are car rims. Okay? And then I decided, you know what? It's starting to get dark. Let's just jump all the way back to 250 yards. Okay, so I went out to 250 yards. I had to change rifles. I went from my Radical 16-inch barrel, right? I had to switch over to this Ruger MPR. This is an 18-inch barrel, so I'm getting a little bit more power just because of that. Those extra 2 inches on this barrel, not a whole lot, but just a little bit more. Besides that, the main reason why I switched over is because I needed some magnification. So I'm using this primary arms 1:8 scope. And the reason why I had to do it is because at 250 yards, basically I have about a 3-foot gap that I'm shooting. Basically I'm shooting in between trees. I have a 3-foot gap, and the trees are black, and the rim is black. So if I was just using a red dot, I would not be able to tell, what was rim and what was tree. So I needed some magnification. And then what I did is I put a piece of white tape right here, okay, at the top of this rim, as it was. I had the rim sitting in exactly this position like this. The reason is because I know what my holdover is at 250 yards with that scope. So I knew that I needed to put my chevron up here, so I would hit. Actually, where did I put it? Oh, wrong direction, this way. Okay, so basically, I knew I had to put my tape over here, so I would hit right over here, and really cool. I got a nice 5.5 inch group, which is pretty typical of what I've been hitting at 250 yards with that Ruger MPR with that primary arms 1:8 scope, and basically I have a 4-inch cluster inside. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, and then one just hit on the edge over here. So that was the furthest one out. So that opened this up to 5.5 inches. So I have a 4-inch cluster with 5.5 inches, and as you can see, this is you shooting Remington 223. Okay, at 250 yards. Okay, 250 yards. It's actually going through the steel like it's like a laser. Okay, you know, it like really crisp holes, and that kind of surprised me a little bit, because at 250 yards, basically this rifle is delivering about 500 foot-pounds of energy. 500 foot-pounds of energy is basically a 357, low-end 357. Yeah, you might even call it like a like a 10 millimeter or a really hot 40 caliber. And a 357 just over here at 30 yards, where those rims are down there, it will barely dent it. I mean, usually it will not even dent it. It might just leave a little mark. So I was really surprised that at 250 yards, the 223 was going through this rim as well as it was doing, and I think it has everything to do with basically the dimensions of the bullet. You know, you have a long bullet that's narrow, and it's concentrating that force on the tip. So I was really rather surprised that the 500 foot-pounds could deliver this type of damage to this steel rim. Because like I said, that's not what 357 does. Even at 30 yards, which is right here, 357 usually just bounces right off it. It moves the rim pretty good, but it usually bounces right off it. So very pleasantly surprised at the effectiveness of 223. And these aren't green tips. This is not XM 193. This is just regular Remington 223. Okay, the cheap stuff. So if you guys like this video, find it useful, give it a thumbs up, share it, hit that hit that bell button so you get notifications of new videos I make. I'll talk to you guys next time.